Hi, I'm Jessica,
And I'm Ashley, and we're members of Bravehearts Move New York.
and check us out on Rose Above It podcast.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 6 of RoseAboveIt podcast. I'm T Rose.
Yo, what's up? It's Philly.
What's up? And then we got Jessica and Ashley with us from Bravehearts NY. How y'all doing? Thank you for being here, y'all. How y'all doing?
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So tell everybody, what is Bravehearts NY? What do y'all do?
So Bravehearts Move New York stands for Motivating Others Through Voices of Experience, and we are the first youth-led non-for-profit organization that works with young people transitioning out of the foster care, mental health, and juvenile justice system.
Phew, that's a mouthful.
Powerhouse. Told you.
Yo, word. So, what do kids have to do to be a part of this?
It's a good question. So a Braveheart we define as a young person who's gone through any level of adversity or difficulty in their lives, and they come out of that a stronger and wiser version of themselves. They're a Braveheart. So our Bravehearts are young people who have dealt with tragedy, dealt with difficulty, dealt with oppression, system violence, isolation, abandonment, and they don't want to be defined by those things. They come to motivational meetings where they turn their pain into purpose, and we help inspire one another.
That's dope. So do you have to be do you have to be an inner city kid, or can you be from anywhere? Can you be it doesn't matter how rich the family is you're coming from? Like, what if I'm a wealthy kid and I want to be part of this? Can I?
So foster care, mental health, and juvenile justice really doesn't know no age, no race, even though disproportionality is a major issue within New York State and across the country. But we're keeping it real. We're based out of Yonkers.
Yeah,
so we're serving our minority population of youth because that's who our systems are overrepresented by. But we absolutely have young people who live in more affluent communities who also have been impacted by mental health and foster care involvement.
Okay, all right. So where do kids have to go to get to see your programs? Are they based at any one location, or are they all over?
So we have an administrative office, which Ashley's the program coordinator of, and she works out of there, and we do a lot of different programs. So we do individual mentoring, where young people will come and get help with system navigation. So a lot of young people who are living independently, young moms, young people out there that are trying to tackle the homeless issue and get stable housing, they need help to navigate those systems, to deal with professionals in a non-judgmental way, to understand their rights, to understand the protocol that's involved. And these are things that are not information that's not disseminated to young people. So unless you know somebody or you're being educated on it, you can get lost in it. So we provide individual mentoring to help those young people navigate those systems. We run a program, which Ashley's the program coordinator of, in the Valhalla County Jail for incarcerated youth called Bravery Beyond Bars, where we work with 16 to 18-year-old incarcerated youth to help them we do individual mentoring with them and group facilitation in there, but more importantly, we help connect them to resources once they come back into the community so they have something positive to connect to. We run a program called Brave Moms, which is a young mom support group that Philly's a co-facilitator of. And
shoot.
Yep. You didn't know she had
It's
that.
a brave mom. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes we're always so busy interviewing other people, I don't really get to talk.
That's not true.
About
That's not
myself.
true. We knew that.
I don't want to brag too much either.
We knew that. Don't try to make it seem like I take all the spotlight. Don't do that.
I didn't say that.
Don't do that. So you guys help anybody from age? What's the age range you said?
So our programs have different age ranges, but mostly it's 14 to 26. But Brave Moms goes 14 to 27. Our work in the jail with incarcerated youth, that's 16 to 18. So it depends on our programs. Our most popular program and what we got our start from is our motivational meetings based here in Yonkers. We meet here in the square, 45 South Broadway, and then we have our administrative office on Ludlow, where we team up with the Power Lab. And we host our meetings there, and that's for young people 14 to 26 that are coming from all backgrounds. And, May is Foster Care and Mental Health Awareness Month, so we bring light to all the issues that are talked about in the dark or aren't deemed cool to talk about with your friends on the block.
Yeah, like what? I'm just curious. What are some things that you guys...
Want you give some examples? What we talk about? What are things that young people talk about?
They talk about sex, relationships, stuff like that, or is it
exactly
what it is?
Yeah, so we try to give them more of a positive note to it, though.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're coming and, you know, like, you're having, like, a relationship problem, like, what we see often is, like, there's a lot of girls out here that end up homeless or couch surfing, and they stay with, like, a boyfriend. Then they get into a DV situation, but they don't have nowhere to go. So it's, like, it's a safe place that they can come and speak about it, and we can give them resources, you know, on, like, how to deal with it.
DV?
Domestic violence.
Yeah.
Domestic violence. Or even somebody who's been through a similar experience where they could just tell that young lady, like, this is what I've been through. Let's make sure that you don't have to go through that.
So y'all make sure you guys keep it more real instead of giving like the typical parental answer to certain things. So
We're very honest.
yeah, so if somebody comes to you and asks about sex, like, hey, I'm having unprotected sex with my boyfriend. They say they're 14-year-old girls. You guys aren't going to be giving answers like, oh, don't have sex, it's not right. Y'all give them the more of the, you need to be protected, you need to get checked, talks like that.
We give them options.
Yeah.
So we give them options. We also we're not the the do all end all be all. What we do is we tell them the things that we've survived and we've endured and what our experiences are, and give them options on which path that they could choose, like what they want to go down and what the possible outcome could be. Sometimes it gets deep. Sometimes we have young people that are coming talking about, my parents are using drugs and there's no food in the house, and what can I do? And we have to take responsibility for those very real things that are not commonly talked about in the hood.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things I like about BraveHearts the most is that you guys really focus on experienced people being experts of what they've gone through. Mm-hmm. So you pair up a person that maybe doesn't have a college degree, maybe hasn't went and took classes on any type of topic, but they're just talking about their lived experiences, which oftentimes we don't have enough of those people that have experience in some of these youths and in their corner.
Absolutely. Or we don't create job positions that even empower people like all of us that have lived experience, that can do these professions, that can do mentoring, that can be credible messengers, that can take their dark moments and help inspire young people. Like, that's where the real work is at. It's all about relationship building.
Yeah, so I was going to ask that. Is for youth, do you guys does each kid have a mentor that they're assigned to, or?
So there's Braveheart leadership. So there's leadership that actually run the meetings, and they're all very connected to us. So there's a lot that we do that we don't have funding for, that we just do because we know it's right and the community needs it, and then we try to go and hustle grants to get get the work done afterwards, and get paid for it. But yeah, when it comes to the mentoring, we actually don't even have a grant that supports that at the moment.
Okay.
We just do that because it's what's right. So no, not every single Braveheart has an individual advocate, but every single Braveheart has access to mentoring by the Braveheart leadership, which includes myself, Ashley, and several other Braveheart members who have been with us since our founding. So we started this 5 years ago. We only became nonprofit 2 years ago, and we've been going out and getting our own grants ever since and creating programs.
That's dope. So these kids have your personal phone numbers. A lot of these kids.
Our social media.
Facebook is like the main way to contact.
Yeah, that's dope. So how does one become a Braveheart like what you guys do? If I wanted to step in and help.
To actually do like mentoring.
Yeah, mentoring. Yep.
So we have the good fortune now that we're getting a little bit more recognition for the work that we're doing, and we, have our eyes on some grants that give us the ability to compensate people for the work that they want to do. So we're putting, like right now, we're hiring for the jail, for the Bravery Beyond Bars job. So we are in an organizational mentorship with the Children's Village. So I don't know if you've heard of them before.
The Children's Village in Dobbs,
yeah. They're actually all over the Hudson Valley, so they got sites in the city and all the 5 boroughs. They got sites up in Rockland County and in Orange County. They're a very large residential organization. Residential placement is for young people who have dealt with abuse, neglect, or abandonment, or juvenile justice issues, and they can't remain in their community. They would go to a residential treatment center. So Children's Village operates residential treatment centers, but also operates community-based programs. When they heard about us 5 years ago, they became an ally of ours, and when we became nonprofit, they knew that we needed organizational support to help get us where we needed to be, so they extend that to us. So, the car that I'm driving to even get here today is the CV agency car. So they're now changing the mold on what it looks like for professionals to adopt a youth organization and treat them as equals. So we create our job descriptions, run them through Children's Village. We use it as word of mouth. We let people in the community know we're hiring. We interview them, we hire them, and then they start working in our programs.
It is amazing. Amazing. So now you are a woman executive director of a nonprofit. How is that experience? This just happened 2 years ago. You were running the group, but how's that?
How does it feel to go from that to this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I talk about Bravehearts in my sleep, so there is no Bravehearts is everything. I eat, breathe, and sleep it. I have kids. I'm a mom. I'm definitely a brave mom, and my kids even get involved. They love the Bravehearts. They know what it is, so that's like a blessing for me. I feel like I'm role modeling for the future. I don't know. It's very humbling for me. I haven't had the privilege to graduate from college yet, so to have an esteemed title like that, but to feel like I don't have the academic credentialing behind it is a bit of an insecure place for me. But I'm blessed to have people around me that encourage me and let me know that I'm on the right path and I'm doing the right thing. And
100%.
I truly feel that great leaders build leadership in others. So I have a privilege to be here, but my job is to make sure that Ashley and all the other Braveheart leaders are taking this over, because I'm going to get old and I'm going to get grumpy. And next generation got to take it over.
I think it's dope for sure, because I know there's a lot of kids who feel like if they don't have an education by 18, 19, 20, 21, college degree at 21, a lot of people feel like, oh, like my life's over, I'm not going to be anything. And like for you to instill in them that, there's never too late to get an education, never too late to be positive, get an education, and do the right thing. I think that's dope.
Thank you.
So now your logo is a lion. How did that come about, and what does that stand for?
Want to talk about that a little?
Sure. So, lions move in a pride. And when you go through foster care, you go through a system. Sometimes you feel like you're alone. And Bravehearts was a place for us to be able to like bond in the experiences that we've had. So we're a pride, like we move in a pack.
Mm-hmm.
So now like we don't have to feel alone, and there's power in numbers. So that's why we have our lion.
Did you guys come up with that?
So this graphic was completely designed by us.
That's
Yeah,
dope.
like actually, her husband was the one who like graphic designed it.
Okay.
And was able to get it printed. So like everything that has to do with this lion, like we actually like detailed piece by piece. So I think it's, what eye is it? Okay, and the right eye is New York State,
Yep.
and then the left eye is a professional and a child holding hands. So it's like we're trying to do system reform in New York State, throughout the state, and then in the left. With the partner and with the professional and the child, is the partnership between like professionals with the education and the youth that have the lived experience. So we're trying to like bring that together. We're trying to like patch, and network. So.
Powerful.
Y'all putting our logo to shame. All right.
So my question is, what happened that you guys even started Bravehearts? I mean, I know. I can only imagine that the foster care system, does a lot for someone who goes through it. But what made you decide to be the one to step up and say, I gotta do something for people like me and for others?
So I can speak because like that's Mom and Braveheart. So I volunteered for a long time, but in Bravehearts when it first started. But I've known Jessica since I was 14.
Okay.
And I was in foster care, and I wasn't like the ideal foster child. Like I used to AWOL and like run away, and they used to call the cops on me. She was my Braveheart mentor before Bravehearts even existed.
Okay.
And there was times that like I would cry to her and tell her like I feel like if there was more people like you and more people that have the lived experience and can understand why I do the things that I do, we can save a lot more people to not have to go through the things that we went through. And that's what started me like on the path to being able to help people, because like one of the mottos that I feel like we always use is like healed people like heal people. Like you have to be healed in order to heal other people from like what they've been through if you've been through similar experiences. And there's also healing and helping. Like so if you're not healed from the trauma that you've been through, helping somebody else come through, like make it through their trauma and overcome their obstacles can help you heal in a way. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that's why I started, and I know that just being Jessica's friend for so long, that just having somebody that can just share those experiences, like that's what bonds people. That's what makes things last. Like it's not fake, it's real.
And for me, it wasn't there, so I made it. That's really
That's awesome.
I think that's what it came down to. I know what it's like to be in pain and be alone, And if there was Bravehearts around when I was younger and I was in care, I wouldn't have went through a lot of the things that I did go through. So I promised myself a very long time ago that if I ever had the opportunity, that I would make sure I did something so young people didn't feel the way I felt.
So what are some of the things that happen when a youth age out of foster care?
Depends what type of level of care you're in. So Ashley and I were involved in kinship care. So kinship care is when there's abuse and neglect going on in the home of a biological parent, and CPS or preventative care will come in and investigate the issue, and you are placed with a relative or a friend of the family while your parent is working on the issues that they have. In my case, my guardian was not able to work on the issues that they had, so I went from staying with a friend of the family to going straight into independent living. And independent living is an option that a lot of kids in care go into, which is a state and federally funded initiative where you get your own apartment, or you do apartment shared with other young people. You get a room and you can stay there until you're 21 or 24 based on the funding requirements. And the goal is to save up money during those 3 to 5 years so then you can go get your own apartment on your own. I became pregnant very early on into my time in supported housing, and they did not allow pregnant women to stay in that unit, so I was kicked out and found myself homeless very quickly, which is a system issue. And but I was able to get on my feet and work and get my own place, and I've been successfully housed ever since. But not all young people are that fortunate. Trauma, as Ashley had mentioned, plays a huge role into the way a young person transitions out of foster care. The system looks at behavior rather than the possibilities of the young person. So if you do not demonstrate a certain behavior or certain characteristics that would deem you eligible for as a good candidate for independent living, that's not something that's really being afforded to you, and your chances of becoming homeless go up. We see that being also a gender issue, because we see our Black and brown male youth that are not viewed as priority when it comes to housing. And then we see our Black and brown females that will use sometimes sex and relationships for a place to stay, and which then can lead to DV situations, can lead to pregnancies, can lead to housing instability. So those are just like the overall, like some of the cons that can happen. If you're in residential care, one of the things that's afforded to you is a permanency hearing where you go to a judge and you talk about options of what your independent living looks like, and it could be returning back to the home, it could be living independently, that you get a job and you get your own apartment, or you go into independent living. That's if you have a good enough relationship with your judge and you can articulate yourself well and get those needs met. For some of our young men and women, they can't do that, and they are shut down and they go from one system to the next, and we see them a couple of years later in the criminal justice system.
That's unfortunate. Very. Are there any like companies that offer internships to these kids that you guys help?
Yeah, so there's definitely businesses that, first of all, I mean, there's even the Westchester County Department of Social Service does like summer youth employment for youth that are in foster care. One Stop Employment offers job programs for youth that are involved in the foster care or the mental health system. Some of the barriers and challenges are readiness for work, and also explaining to employers what trauma responses look like, how to deal with triggers, how to employ a young person, how to deal with tardiness, how to deal with young people that don't have those soft skills that are needed, like how to even look someone in the eye and have a conversation with them without feeling intimidated. We don't teach that to our young people that are in the system. We don't teach what it's like to stay off of your cell phone. We don't teach what it's like to not suck your teeth and roll your eyes at somebody. Yet we'll put somebody in a customer service job making $10 an hour and expect them to do well. So again, like Ashley said, we're very real with what we say and what goes on, and we feel like someone has to be honest with these young people. And we are not a grievance committee. We don't speak about all the negatives. We just are very honest with what goes on, and when there's successes, we highlight those just as equally, because we want people to understand what are the opportunities out there and how to take personal accountability for your own life. Because sometimes we need to go from victims to victors. Yep. So I spent a very long time of my life hurting myself more because I was hurt by my family. And it wasn't until I let that pain go and I healed from that I was able to take accountability over my own life. That's something that takes people sometimes a lifetime to achieve, and it's something I still currently work on. It's about like emotional maintenance, but that's something we don't talk about with our kids. Bravehearts, we do.
So I know that it is Foster Care Awareness Month and also Mental Health Awareness Month. What are you all's take on mental health and our youth being honest about their mental health, or maybe not even being honest, maybe actually going to get it taken care of, maybe therapy? So I know some of our young people, when they hear therapy, they're like, "Well, I'm not crazy."
Especially in the black and brown community, or Spanish Latin community, we think that therapy is, oh yeah, he's crazy. I can't mess with him.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah,
I'm not that crazy.
exactly.
I don't got nothing going on.
Yeah,
with
there's
me.
nothing wrong with me. So I know it's hard to get them to, to speak and get them in counseling and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I think that's when we look at reforming what therapy looks like, and consistency of therapists and access to treatment, and also like innovative ways to provide treatment. So I'm glad you brought up the cultural piece, because let's talk about just for Hispanic families, sometimes culturally, when you look at systems or people that are outside the family getting involved into family issues, that's viewed as taboo. You don't do that. Sometimes
You
doing
don't tell nobody about your business.
Yeah, exactly.
That's behind closed doors. So sometimes doing that could get you kicked out of your own house. And that's a very real issue that, adds to the stigma around mental health. We also look at the real challenges too. There's a ton of mental health treatment centers here, even in Yonkers, that we refer our young people to, and they call us back and say, I'm on a wait list. So it's very concerning for us when you have a young person who is at the point where they're like, I know I need therapy, and they call a center and there's wait lists all around. And they wait for a call 60, 90 days, 120 days later. Will they still be ready at that point, or will it be too little too late? So we look at like different ways, and we advocate for like ways mental health treatment can be given throughout the county. You look at what it looks like for mobile therapy and treatment. How can therapy be brought to you instead of maybe you going out to a clinic? How can therapists be reform their training to be more responsive to young people? So social workers are trained in school to have boundaries and not to build relationships, personal relationships with their clients. Mm-hmm. Yet how can I tell you about myself and the issues I'm dealing with if it's just a one-sided conversation and it's not a relationship? Relationships go two ways. So those are things we talk about as well. Is we go around to different universities, like we spoke at Fordham University to their graduating social work class, letting them know, like, we know this is what you were academically trained in, but this is how you really need to be if you're going to engage with young people. So I think it's about just really having a conversation about access to resources. It's about having a conversation about breaking down the stigma, and that emotional intelligence is something that every single human being has to manage. There is not a single human being that has not felt sadness, that has not felt despair, that has not encountered tragedy. What we have to ask ourselves is, how do we bounce back from those moments? Some people are able to do that easier than others. So it's for the people that struggle to get there a little bit quicker than some other people. That's where maybe the mental health treatment comes in. So it's not a me versus you, it's a us, and how can we help each other?
Sheesh, man, you guys are so deep. No,
We could talk
so
about this for days.
yeah, you can. So what, you guys have social media? You guys have like Instagram, Facebook, or anything?
Yes.
How can the people find you?
So we have a website, BraveHeartsMoveNY.org. We're on Facebook. We talk about everything we do and showcase our achievements and some of the young people's successes and new programs that we're starting. That's on Facebook, BraveHeartsMoveNY. We don't have an Instagram. We did back in the day, and we lost the password, and we've never been able to find it since. So,
haven't had a new one?
Yeah, I got to get that together.
If anyone wanted to
donate, can we donate on that website?
Or like, what do you
yes.
need? What are the things that you need for your kids on a regular basis? Like, what are the items?
So number one thing, Metro cards.
Yes.
Young people are going to job interviews all the time, are struggling to get to appointments, do not have Metro cards. We have no funding for that. Another thing, we meet every Friday night in Yonkers here doing our motivational meetings, and we come out of pocket with the money for food, so we feed them and provide Metro cards. So if you're looking to donate monetary funds, that helps us with providing food every Friday night. With our young moms we work with, we're always getting requests for like formula, diapers, strollers, things like that. Our young men that we work with when they're coming out of jail, sometimes they need clothes they need clothes to go to work. Another initiative we did in partnership with Junior League Bronxville, we created something called Brave Bags, which are survival bags for young people that are dealing with couch surfing and homelessness.
Okay.
And they're book bags, real sturdy book bags that you could use, like not just the drawstring ones, real good ones. And it had a ShopRite gift card in there. It had a Metro card in there. It has hygiene kits in there. It had a journal in there, a coloring book. It had snacks in there. It had a sleeping bag in there, a blow-up pillow. We felt like just an emergency survival kit. So like our young people, they go around house to house, street to street. We have a Braveheart right now that we're trying to help with housing that's sleeping at the Mount Vernon train station. He has a Brave bag, and the sleeping bag in there, it helps him. So, I mean, that's just kind of the real stuff that we provide.
What's like off the top of your memory, the hardest case that you could kind of remember that got really hit home for you guys?
Or the greatest success?
Yeah, I mean,
either way, both.
Both. So I think Ashley and I would probably have different answers to the different experiences. So mine is going to be probably what we're dealing with right now. So her and I are working with a young man that's currently incarcerated, was recently sentenced, 16 years old, going away for almost 2 decades. It is very, very, very hard when you look at a young person who's involved in the community and you see one side of them, and then you work with them on a more intimate level where all of that gets stripped away and you see who the individual is and you see what the community and the systemic and the parental issues are and what could have been in place to help prevent that young person from getting down that path. And personally for me, I've had to do a lot of self-care with that situation because these are children. These are 16-year-olds. The human brain does not stop developing until age 25, so rational thoughts and impulsive behavior, all these things are still developing. So it's hard. It's hard for me. And I keep just asking myself, like, how to fix this? How do we fix the juvenile justice system? How do we fix the cycle of violence? And I don't have easy answers to this question. I don't think there are easy answers because if there were, we would have solved it already. So I think it just comes down to just not giving up and like taking care of yourself while you do the work. But that's definitely it's one of my ones that's been hitting me heavy recently. What would you say? One success. Or
yeah, give us a success. Give me a good one. Give me a good one.
All right, a good one. Okay, so another one with the jail. So we had a young man in the jail who would he was a recidivist. He was only 18 years old, and we've seen him since he was 16 multiple times in the jail. Like, like you go back, you come back home, and you end up back here. We're telling you we have resources for you. He turned 18, and the last time he was in jail, he ended up his girlfriend ended up having his baby while he was in jail. He decided, which we've heard before, I want to come home and I want to change this. Okay, well, if you want to come home and change, you know where we're at, you know where to meet us, come and get some help. He's been home since November. The young man has a job. He's on his way to being a supervisor. Him and his baby mother just got an apartment. His son turned 1 last week. So this young man is doing very well, and this is a young man that, people in the jail, higher ups would say, like, we're going to see him back here. He keeps getting in trouble, so he's doing well. Yep.
So, oh my, Philly, tell what's going on in the gallery before I ask him this last question. Do you know?
Yeah. So in the gallery, every last Friday we have an open mic, and that's a collaboration with Express Yourself Soulbox. So that's about like 7 o'clock every last Friday of the month here at Blue Door Gallery. Currently, we have the same amazing exhibit up.
Yep,
This is Cross Currents.
Yep, from SUNY, right? SUNY Purchase? These kids? No.
Mount St. Vincent.
Mount St. Vincent. I'm sorry, Mount St. Vincent. But the art is dope, though, so come check it out, man.
The art is so dope. You got to come see the 6'9" piece. That's one of my favorite pieces. And every Saturday at Blue Door Gallery, there's children workshops. And you can always look on their calendar to find out what other things are happening maybe during the week or.
Okay. So Jessica Ash is the last question I ask you before we get up out of here. What's the hardest thing y'all rose above to get to this point? Yeah, go ahead.
Hardest second thing. It's probably just is something I'm probably going to deal with till the day I die. I have been estranged from my mother. It's been now, I've not spoken to her in 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And being a mother myself, it's very difficult to navigate that, what that looks like. My mother, unfortunately, struggles with significant mental health challenges, and she just, she cannot be the parent that I wish she could be. I had to forgive somebody who's never said they're sorry, and unfortunately, I have had to do that several times in my life. So I think being able to accomplish that and do that is what helps me to persevere, because I still carry my insecurities. As much as I talk so proudly about this, I'm a very insecure young lady, and I can revert right back to that abused and neglected 6-year-old girl. So remembering that I'm worthy and remembering that this has purpose and that the things that I endured, I had to go through so I could be here today and be a Braveheart. That's the hardest thing I've had to endure, but it's also the thing that keeps me grounded.
Thank y'all for coming today, for real. Thank you. Bravehearts Move NY. Thank you.
Something you rose above?
Oh, sure. I mean, I feel like everybody should rise above it. When Jessica was talking about being a victim, like when you go through trauma and you're in systems, it's easy to be like, woe is me. And everything that you do that doesn't turn out the way you wanted to is always because of something you've been through. A lot of people don't realize that when you're put in situations like that and you have to go through systems and you're dealing with trauma, you're stronger than a lot of other people. And they don't realize that. So it's like I had to tell myself that I was strong because I made it through the things that I made through, and that I wasn't a victim to the things that I made it through. Because a victim doesn't make it through.
Yes.
And they don't break you, they build you.
Thank you. And I think that's for everybody. And I have to tell myself that all the time. But on top of that, I try to tell every young person that I meet that's been through adversity.
You guys inspired me so much. I was going through some craziness before I got here, and I'm feeling good.
Feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling
good. You ain't canceling that appointment?
No.
All right, good. So, that's episode 6 of Rose Above It podcast. Thank you for being here, guys, once again.
Y'all
great. All right, y'all. We see y'all next week.